Within 1 year, I got the entire experiment to work from the very beginning to end.
Did you believe you helped Obama to achieve his goals?
That I would act in what I thought would be the best interests of the United States and the world based on evidence.
Is it possible for the United States to open the door for Chinese investment?
The government has to take a long view of what the world will need. I want people to have a prosperous life.
Yeah. You were born to a Chinese American, a quite intellectual family. In your father's generation and in your own generation, your family has created more than a dozen PhDs and scientists. So can you tell the Chinese audience, did your family background help you in your education and in your career? You know, Chinese families always emphasize on study. You have to start hard, too much homework, too much study. But in your case, did you benefit from this kind of atmosphere in the family, or your family completely had a different atmosphere?
You know, we're not rich, we're very poor. And so we had jobs that we had to do during grade school and in high school. So I saved up a lot of money from jobs and bought myself a big erector set. And my mother let me make these big things in the living room, because there were only 3 brothers in 1 bedroom, so there's no space. So I was allowed to do that. If ever I said, well, I want to go to the library, my mother would drop what she's doing and take us to the library to borrow books. So in that respect, yes, it wasn't, you have to do just schoolwork and study what the teachers tell you, but you should learn on your own as well. So to encourage people, it should be fun to learn. If it's not fun, then life is too short.
You won Nobel Prize in physics in 1997. Your contribution was in the laser cooling and the capturing of atoms. Could you explain to our audience what it is and what's the practical use of this technology?
It wasn't an original idea of mine to try to capture atoms with light and try to hold them. But what happened was people had been trying for maybe 10, 12 years, not succeeding. And at the time, it was just an interesting science question. Is it possible to hold on to individual atoms or particles with light to be able to control them and move them around? And I found that in order to do this, first it looked hopeless, but then I stumbled on something. Within 1 year, I got the entire experiment to work from the very beginning to end.
So it was in Bell Lab.
Yes.
That's interesting. Bell Lab actually created several Nobel Prize winners.
Many, many contributions to Bell Labs. Maybe, if you include what they did, maybe 10, 12. But it also invented the transistor. It has the basic patent for the laser. It established information science and established all of those things within Bell Labs.
You took 4 years off to join the Obama administration to become the Secretary of the Energy Department. And we know as a scholars, politics follows a really different logic than academia. So did you feel really challenged when you joined the administration?
First, it was very interesting. I had no ambition to join any government. I did not know President-elect Obama. I never didn't campaign for him. But what happened is after he got elected in November of 2008, I get this phone call from someone else that said, the president would like to talk to you about a very important job. And I said, well, I'm not so sure I want to work for the government. What job are you talking about? And he said, well, Secretary of Energy. So I said, okay, for that job, I will go to Chicago and talk to him. So I met him in Chicago at the end of November, just the two of us. He walks in, I stand up, I'm sort of dressed like this, no tie, no nothing. And he walks up to me and says, everybody tells me you should be the next Secretary of Energy. And a couple of weeks later, he asked. When I first joined the government, they said, wow, this guy's a scientist. I was the first scientist cabinet member in the history of the United States. And so they weren't sure what scientists are able to do. And the first thing they said is, I notice when they ask you questions about things, you tend to want to answer the question. I said, yes. And his editor says, no, you should learn to pivot to what you want to say.
That's the first lesson to become a politician.
No, I was a bad student in that. During the whole time I was there, and as a scientist, as an academic, but in the end, what I found is in private, if you say something, you mean it, and you tell them the truth, eventually they begin to trust you. Also, they trusted me because they knew I had no political ambition.
You don't belong to that.
I don't belong to that. I'm not looking to take their job away. And so, and then I would act in what I thought would be the best interests of the United States and the world based on evidence.
But did you believe you helped Obama to achieve his goals?
I think we did. In terms of achievements, we did several things. There's a new funding agency called ARPA-E. It stands for Advanced Research Projects for Energy. I was in part of the committee that made a recommendation in 2005 that the Department of Energy establish a new research funding arm, but one that was more daring. Because typically in government funding, you tend to invest in relatively safe things. My attitude was, no, if you're not taking risk and you're just doing the sure things, that's actually not success. Fred Smith, he was the founder of FedEx, very rich person. And he got up in front of 3,000 people and he said, this program is the best federal program I've seen in my life. And the founder of Walmart said similar things. So they could see that we were beginning to take daring risks to really try to do something rather than incremental things.
Right.
And so that was one of the things we started. Another thing we started was cooperation with China. And we said the United States and China should cooperate. We had several things. We wanted to make clean coal, electric vehicles, energy efficiency in cities and buildings. And we said we should work with each other. We should share intellectual property. And this is now 16 years. US scientists and engineers begin to work with each other, trust each other, develop friendship with each other.
Let's come to climate change. Right? The first question I want to ask is, how much have human activities contributed to global warming? Look at the history, there were ups and downs of temperature anyway, right? There were periods when temperature cooled down, and there were periods when temperature rose up. And probably today we are in a period of rising temperature, starting from the mid 17th century, right? So many people say even without human activities, we're going to see the temperature to rise.
The climate did change by itself, had nothing to do with humans. We had ice ages, we had warm periods. Right. You go before that oscillation, we were much warmer than we were today.
Yeah. Can make it simple. So if we keep using fossil fuels, we're going to kind of dig all the heat out of Earth.
Where we make more carbon dioxide, more heat-trapping gases,
right.
And if the sun coming down, energy coming down is the same, and less is going into space, then the Earth warms up.
So we only have about 10% of the world population who are living by high standard living standards, right? So the rest, 90%, or the smallest, let's say 80%, are still living on substance level, right? So they need economic growth. And most of those countries have to rely on fossil fuels today. So it sounds like there is a contradiction between global warming and people's livelihood.
If you look at the prosperity of a country and its energy use,
right,
they're related.
Yes.
Now, they're related in a way that once you get above a certain thing, when you're a rich country, you can use more energy and the standard of living doesn't increase. But if you're a developing country, definitely, directly linearly proportional. Then the question is, how do you get to the place where it's not going to be cheaper? Okay. And so it's my conviction that it's just like if you look at the way the industrialized world developed, there was electrification and then wires. Right. And there was first, and then phones and then phone lines.
Right.
But we now have cell phones and wireless. When solar and batteries become, and solar is cheap, but it's the battery part, and that within a decade, it's going to come cheap enough. You don't even have to have a grid in most developing countries. So I see a day, I want to leapfrog past like phones. And this is beginning to happen, especially if you're in a more isolated area. You can have solar and a good battery. I'm hoping within a decade, you can begin to leapfrog past coal. I don't know whether it's going to be a decade. It's longer than 5 years, less than 20 years.
Right. So talking about the economic incentives, many of the world international financial institutions, like the World Bank, IMF, and also some central banks adopting so-called climate finance, right, to induce people to invest into green technologies. Do you think that's going to work, particularly for developing countries?
Yes, and here's the reason. When you're a new technology, there's always a technological risk, which means there's a financial risk.
Right.
And the cost of money is crucial in any new investment. Now, if you're a developed country, the capital risk is much smaller than your developing country.
Right, right.
And so the cost of money becomes crucial because in renewable energy, the initial expense is higher. The operating expense is much lower.
Right.
So then the financing becomes more important. If you build a gas generator, the turbine gas generation system is significant, but the operating costs of natural gas is much higher.
Right.
Okay, so that changes the economics. And so what the IMF and the World Bank and others are trying to do, and this is what the Department of Energy loan program was doing when I was secretary, is that if the government or the World Bank or something backstops, so we say we will stand by and buy down the capital risk to that of a rich country, but because you're a developing country, you have to pay more money because there's always a risk country will not be able to pay back.
Right.
Okay, so that's the idea. Now let me give you what happened in the US when I was secretary. Wind and solar were just beginning. People wanted to spend $1 billion for a wind farm or solar farm. Wall Street wouldn't touch it.
Right.
It's too risky. What if it's over budget? So we had a loan program. The US government said, we'll back the loan to drive down the cost of financing. It only lasted 3 years. After 3 years, they watched these billion-dollar projects in solar and wind. They were built on time, on budget. And what happened is Wall Street put in twice as much money in the following years. Because they said, oh, you can build these on time, on budget, and you can make money. Warren Buffett bought 2 of our solar farms. And so once you buy down the initial risk and show that it can be done on budget, on time, then the normal economics takes over. So that's the idea of these finance terms.
So you have been to China many, many times. I remember in 2020, in a forum, you said China is ready to lead the world in green technologies. So 5 years have passed. How do you assess China's development in green technologies?
First big event was solar, PV, photovoltaics. Right. But it's the cost. And what China did was they drove down the cost by economy of scale and also by steady, slow improvements. First, it started with amorphous silicon, but polycrystalline, and now LONGi and other companies make single crystal silicon as inexpensively as polycrystalline, but it's higher. Okay. Now there are new materials, perovskites. The stuff, the price goes down. The amount of energy you put in to make the product goes down. Everything goes down. But what happened in the end, now the industry's recovered, they make money selling the solar.
Right.
And the world got solar cheaper, faster. Yeah. I see the same thing with batteries and EVs.
Right, right.
Many batteries and EVs, they could say, I'm willing to sell a loss initially, but I want market dominance.
Yes.
And I also see an over exuberant investment in that. I see companies in China, but also all over the world go bankrupt. But the price of EVs and how they perform is going down much, much faster, and it will figure it out.
Right, right.
I think the Chinese government and the Chinese people have a long-term view of what the world will need. Climate change is real.
Yeah.
You need to make better things cheaper.
Right.
And so this long-term view of what we'll need in the end, not, oh, well, we're not really sure and we're going to follow 4 steps behind, is a different attitude. And then finally, what I see in China, in the companies, is a willingness to invest their own money in research, in fundamental research to make better batteries, make better this, better that. What the United States led the world in. Okay, I hope the United States goes back to that. But China is following what the US did successfully in the last century. And the government has to take a long view of what the world will need. And if you take this long view, then it's the future prosperity will also be dependent on that. Now, we stumble around and for whatever reason, transistors, computers, that's a lot to do with Bell Laboratories and things like that.
This sounds a very interesting observation, right? China is following the American model and also Japanese model
Yes.
in the last century. Is it related to the stage of economic development? When people are getting richer, they're not going to do this hard work.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think what happens when you get rich, you're not as lean and hungry. You're not willing to work as hard. And China is still feeling, okay, we want to prove ourselves. We want to do this. We're willing to work hard. We're willing to invest in ourselves.
Right. Come back to the U.S.-China relations. The two governments have been engaged in several rounds of negotiations. Right? Both sides have shown some flexibilities in dealing with each other regarding the tariff and other economic relation issues. So one of the key issues in the negotiation is whether the United States is going to allow Chinese companies, particularly those companies in green energy, solar panel, EVs, to invest in the United States. What's your take on this? Do you think it's possible for the United States to open the door for Chinese investment?
Of course, it's possible. I hope they do. I think if you think about what happened in the case of Japanese automobiles, first there were tariffs to keep out the Japanese. The Japanese started making good cars.
Right.
And the American automobile manufacturers, GM, Ford, Stellantis, no. We want protection. And then finally, they said, if you come and make good products in the United States, of course, the American people get more jobs. It's good. Manufacturing jobs are good jobs because they create secondary jobs and tertiary jobs. And so in the end, they said, okay, you're allowed to build a factory in the United States. But eventually, the way to compete is make better cars.
You talk about Japan. Japan is an ally of the United States, right? It sounds like you can talk in a kind of friendly way, right? But then people say, China and the United States are competing each other. We have different political systems. So for US, why should we open up our door to a competitor, to a rival, right? So what's your answer to that?
It's true. There are different political systems. But, we've done business with countries that have very different political systems in the United States. And my big fear is that we're entering into this Cold War mentality. Because you're an economic competitor does not necessarily dictate that you have to be a military adversary. I want people to have a prosperous life. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
What party you are, what system of government, those things are the same.
Yes.
And we should remember that.
So, as scientists, right? Actually, you care about the future of humankind and also the future of the Earth. So, if you were asked to leave one sentence to the future generation 100 years after, what would you say to them?
I would say that I hope that my generation and the one just below did what we can to make their world a better, safer place.